Yes, my people, it is your boy VRD, and we are back with something slightly different. In today's video, I am going to be performing what is known as a commentary drive. This more or less involves me driving a specific service and calling out what I am doing whilst driving, calling out various speed limits, braking points, a numerous amount of things, just whilst driving along. This is inspired by a YouTuber by the name of PTG Row and is in celebration of it being 10 years since I discovered his YouTube channel. Time honestly does fly. But yeah, we are down here at Dartford Station. The train we'll be taking command of is a Class 700 operated by Thameslink, number 700035. It is an 8 carriage reduced length unit. The full length units are comprised of 12 carriages and fall under the subclass 1. This is a subclass 0 train and is the 35th train of that subclass. I'm just gonna say from now, in fact, yeah, you can even see the game's prompting me to um no, I do not want to give up control of the service. We are going to be running extremely late. That's just down to the fact that the this is a service that has come from, I believe, Luton. I might be wrong, but I think Luton. So it's just made a brief stop here at Dartford. Well, that's what it was supposed to do, and it was planning on continuing on to Rainham, but I've actually gone in and stopped it here for a bit, just so I have a bit of time to do this introduction and get through the setup procedure of the cab. So without further ado, let's get into that now. I'm going to start by obviously entering the cab. The first thing I'm going to do whilst inside the cab, in fact, I should probably point out the way the cab is now is not how you will find it if you're taking command of a class 700. I've configured it in the way you would come across this cab in real life. So for starters, the PBC will not be in the full service position. By default, the PBC will be in um the off position, so here. But that is not realistic. In real life, the PBC will in fact be in the full service position. I'm not sure why they've programmed it like that, as if this was a tram or something. Only trams do that. But yeah, also the driver Amanda appliance will not be on by default, but I've come in and switched that on. Again, just for realism. So the first thing we're going to do is activate our safety systems. So that is the TPWS slash AWS, the driver safety device. Sorry, where is it? Here it is, the driver safety device and the vigilance. After that, I'm going to sit in the driver's seat. I'm going to insert the master key and acknowledge the AWS self-test sequence. That class 465 networker is making a ton of noise. I'm hoping that's not interrupting with my commentary. I've also moved the PBC into the emergency position by accident, so I'm going to pull that back into the full service position. What comes next? Um, oh dear. Oh yeah, of course. For some reason, when you take command of a class 700 at Dartford Station heading towards Rainham, sometimes the power voltage will be off, so you're gonna have to activate the DC power supply. I can't for the life of me remember how that's done, so this might end badly. But yeah, you can see we're extremely behind time right now, but I couldn't care less. Oh, how does this? Oh dear, I can't even see. I should probably turn on the cab light. We can start by doing that. Where is the cab light switch? It's over here. Yeah, that helps a lot. Okay, so I believe it's power supply off. No. Okay, nothing seems to be happening. So I'm going to move the mode into DC and then turn the power supply switch back into the on position. And once that stops flashing, we should have our voltage, which we do. So yes, I've successfully configured the train to draw voltage from the electrified third rail. I was a bit concerned that I was going to not be able to do that and mess up the video and have to start again, but no, we did it. Cab light off. Our doors are open, right? Yes, our doors are open. So I believe we are now ready to depart from Dartford station. We'll be calling at Stone Crossing, Greenheath, Swanscombe, Northfleet, Gravesend, Higham, Strood, Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham, and finally Rainham. This is about a 45-minute run or so. Very tiring, especially towards the end. I've done this run quite a few times now, probably about maybe 10 or 15 times. So yeah, trust me, it's a very intense run. The stops are quite close together as well. So I believe we are ready to depart now. We are we are extremely late. But like I said, I couldn't care less. I'm gonna be driving quite aggressively just to try claw back as much time as possible. Um yeah, so the realistic way of departing in one of these trains would be to first glance at the signal aspect. As we can see, we have a green aspect. I'm then going to glance at these CCTV monitors. Even though they aren't functional in Train Sim World, you should always aim to glance at them as if they were functional. That's just a good habit to build up, which will help you if you plan on driving trains in real life. The next thing we're going to do is whack the door close button. The doors are on the right hand side in this case, so we're going to press the door close button on the right. We also need to close our cab door, which is something I should have done first. My bad. Now that the passenger doors are closed alongside the cab door, our door interlock light has illuminated. That informs us that our doors are closed and locked. You can see we have another door interlock light here and another one on the other side of the dashboard. What on earth? Okay, no. Do you know what happened? I thought that train was gonna pull out in front of us, which was a bit confusing because we've been given priority. But I forgot that in Train Sim World, the trains will draw up to red signals, but in real life that doesn't happen. The trains will just stay where they are in the platform until their signal clears. But in Train Sim World, they pull up to the signal, which I find weird. So we've observed our door interlock light is illuminated, so we're going to take a final glance at the signal. As we can see, it is still green. We're therefore going to reset our driver reminder appliance.
Driver, you have reset the DRA. Please check the signal.
We've been prompted to check the signal a final time, so I'm going to check it. Still green, and you would obviously do this a lot faster if in actual practice. I'm just slowing it down, mainly because I need to articulate myself properly, and also just so you guys are able to keep up. We're now going to take a final glance at the CCTV monitors, ensure that no one's trapped inside of the doors, although the doors have been closed for quite a while now, so that wouldn't be too pleasant. Maybe do that as soon as you get the door interlock light illumination. We've now observed that no one's trapped in the doors, so we move our F&R switch into the forward position. Pull back on the PBC and apply 25% power. We now observe the brake cylinder gauge reading, which is that red needle there. That needs to fall to 0 bar as your train moves off, and that tells you that your brakes are fully released. You don't want to be applying above 25% power until that needle drops to 0. The speed limit leaving Dartford station is 20 miles an hour, so I'm going to remain in 25% power until we reach that speed and then begin to slowly cut back on the power. We are on a bit of an upward gradient at the moment, so I'm not going to completely shut off the power, but I'm going to significantly reduce it and just have a little bit left in the just to help us maintain the speed. You may have noticed that we just passed a board with the number 50 on it. I think it was a number 50 and some other number on top of it. The other number on top, which is a lower number that applies to freight trains, the higher number, which is the number at the bottom, which in this case was number 50, applies to passenger trains. That tells us that we can accelerate up to 50 miles an hour once the full length of this train passes that board. So 8 carriages, and I believe that should have happened by now. So I'm going to apply full power. You can see we have this little um this interface here that tells us how much power and braking we're applying, which is quite useful because I cannot see the PBC at the moment. It's pitch black. Now that we've reached 30 miles an hour, I've shut off the power and I'm going to make a 50% brake application just to see our speed fall by 10 miles an hour. Once our speed does fall by 10 miles an hour, I release the brakes and once again apply full power. That is known as a running brake test and should be performed at the start of every trip after reaching 30 miles an hour. You do that because if your brakes aren't working, you don't want to be going at 90 miles an hour before finding out. For obvious reasons, it's better to find out at a lower speed, such as 30 miles an hour. So yeah, always be sure to do that. We're now accelerating up to 50 miles an hour, up to 45 at the moment. Now that we've reached about 47 miles an hour, I'm going to begin reducing the power just to prevent us accidentally exceeding this 50 mile an hour speed limit. We've now passed the board with the number 70 on it, with a smaller number on top. I think it said 40, but I'm not paying attention to that. I'm paying attention to the larger number, the bigger number. I don't even know how to word it. The higher number, there we go, at the bottom, which in this case was 70. However, I'm not going to accelerate up to 70 because we are now approaching our first station, which is Stone Crossing. So after passing that green signal there, that's a good indication that you need to get your brakes in. So I've made an immediate 50% brake application. And in most cases, you want to be doing between 40 and 30 miles an hour when driving this specific train on this specific route. Between 40 and 30 miles an hour entering the platforms is decent speed, a decent speed range. And as you can see, I've just been manipulating the braking percentage as we've been making our way along the platform up to the stopping position, which is situated at the end of the platform. And as I came to a stop, I ensured to have no more than 25% braking activated. That ensures that we do not come to a stop with a jolt. It helps us achieve a smooth stop, which is more comfortable for the passengers. Once at a stand, I move the PBC into the full service position, move the FNR switch into neutral, ensure that we are stopped in the correct position, which we are, and observe the side of the train that the platform is on, which in this case is the left hand side. So I'm going to open the doors on that respective side. We are 11 minutes late. It's not even funny. Why am I dying at that? Especially when it happens during real life. That is not a laughing matter at all. Okay, so we do not want to be hanging about at Stone Crossing for too long for obvious reasons. We've now been prompted to close the doors, so once again we take a glance at the signal. We can just about see it there. It is displaying a green aspect. Take a glance at the CCTV monitors. No one's trapped in, sorry, no one's boarding or alerting. Whack the door close button. Perhaps look at the monitors as the doors are closing. Once you get your door interlock light, just ensure that no one is trapped inside of these doors. Take a final glance at the signal, green aspect. F&R switch into forward. I should probably put my phone on silent. Let's do that. Right, F&R switch into forward. Pull back on the PBC. 25% power. Observe that brake cylinder gauge reading fall to 0. And then straight into 100% power. Taking a final glance at the CCTV monitors as well, just to ensure that no one's being dragged along for the ride. Because that is an unnecessary manslaughter charge, and we do not want that. Next station is Greenhaven, which is right around the corner from here. At this green signal that we can see coming up, I'm going to make a 25% brake application. And as we enter Greenhaven station, I'll most likely momentarily increase the braking percentage up to 50 and just bounce between 25 and 50% as we gradually get closer to the stopping position. Once again, aiming for between 40 and 30 miles an hour as we enter the station. So we're down to 25. You can see the platforms coming up now. Down to 30, so I'm going to momentarily reduce the braking percentage. Now increasing it back up to 25%. And we are actually slowing down a bit too quickly, so I'm just being very light on the brakes as we approach our stopping position. It's quite dark, so it's very hard to make out, but I know where it is. You can see our lights are starting to pick it up now. Just these monitors over here. So up to 25% for the stop. We've stopped a bit too short, but that's not too much of an issue. F&R, sorry, I beg your pardon. PBC into full service. F&R switch into neutral. Doors on the left. "12 minutes late." This timetable is very tight. Um, it's I'm not sure. I don't know if this is how the timetable is in real life, but it's an extremely tight timetable. Even when I'm driving properly, I struggle to keep the time. I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. You have to drive very aggressively, accelerate hard, brake hard, and late if you want to have any chance of keeping to the timetable. It is so tight. But yeah, glance at the green signal, glance at the monitors, press the door close button. Door interlock light illuminated. Door interlock light illuminated. Final glance at the signal. F&R switch into forward. Pull back on the PBC. 25% power. Observe the brake cylinder gauge reading fall to 0. Final glance at the monitors to ensure that no one's being dragged along. And full power. So if you're here after watching my Electro Start Guide video, the ultimate Electro Start Guide video, you may notice that my commentary sounds a bit more sarcastic than it did in that video. The thing is, after making that Electro Start Guide, I came to the realization that I am a very poorly articulated person. I've more or less set myself a challenge of becoming more articulated over the next few weeks. as it is a skill that will help me out in the upcoming years of my life, and also it will also help me out whilst making some of these videos for you guys. You know, some of you need to actually understand what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Sorry, that's the vigilance alert that I just acknowledged there. That occurs when no controller input is detected for 60 seconds. We are up to 60 miles an hour, and I'm going to apply the brakes for our next station, which is Swanscombe. You can see it coming up in the distance now. Just reducing the braking force down to 25% from 50%, down to 30 miles an hour. Just almost releasing the brakes very briefly there, back up to 25%. One thing I do quite like about the Class 700s is their ability to make very fine adjustments with the braking force across the percentage spectrum. With Class 375s, more or less any other class of train, we've absolutely flown past our stopping position, but as long as we remain on the platform, it's okay. That is so embarrassing. It's dark. I couldn't see it. Anyway, full service, neutral, doors on the left. As I was saying, the you can make very fine adjustments across the percentage spectrum, as you can see here. 25, 50, 75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can make these very minor adjustments, and you have the same ability when it comes to accelerating as well. I like that because you're able to maintain very specific speeds. With other trains, you'll have one notch for 25%, one notch for 50%, one notch for 75%. With this, you can literally make it's almost like you have 100 notches for braking and acceleration, which is very helpful. But let's not stand around at Swanscombe for too long because our passengers have places to be. I didn't call it out, but I took a glance at the green signal over there before pressing the door close button. We have our door interlock light. Glance at the monitors, no one's trapped in the doors. Final glance at the signal. FNR switching to forward, 25% power. Observe the brake cylinder gauge reading full to 0. Final glance at the monitors again and full power. And if you can get series of that small series of, how should I word it? That series of instructions, let's just word it like that. If you can get that small series of instructions in your head every time you're pulling away from a station, you will be a dangerous man. So I haven't been calling out what I'm doing, which is very bad. But I've made a 25% brake application for our next station, which is Northfleet, that we're entering now. Northfleet is very close to Swanscombe station, so it's not like you need an actual set braking point for that station. You just literally brake when you see the platforms, because you're not going to be up at too much speed by the time you actually see the station. That's how close. That 465 is making so much noise. Yeah, Northfleet is situated very close to Swanscombe, so yeah. Full service, neutral, doors on the left. You can just see how tiring and tedious this run is. It's just literally start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. We're only about 4 stations into the run as well. We're nowhere near the end, and the commentary is already starting to get very tiring, but I'm going to push through this. This is probably my fifth attempt at doing a commentary run. They are honestly more difficult than they look. I don't know how people do it. We're 13 minutes late. Yeah. Green signal, glance at the monitors, door close button, interlock light has illuminated, final glance at the monitors and the signal, FNR switching to forward, 25% power, and observing the brake cylinder gauge reading fall to 0, along with a final glance of the monitors as we pull away, 100% power. Speed limit is still 70 miles an hour. It has been 70 miles an hour since the approach to Stone Crossing Station, which was our first station on this run. However, it will be reducing down to 30 miles an hour on the approach to our next station, which is Gravesend, which is about 3 or so miles from here. So we're going to need to brake for that 30 mile an hour speed limit just as we reach 70 miles an hour, I believe. Or it might be 65, I can't remember. We'll soon find out. This is Springhead Junction. This is where the Class 395 Javelins turn off of the North Kent line to head towards St Pancras via the Channel Tunnel rail link. That's the vigilance alert going off again because no controller inputs was detected for 60 seconds. It's just ensuring that I'm still alive. We've now received an audible AWS indication regarding a warning board for the aforementioned 30 mile an hour speed limit. Warning boards are an upside down yellow triangle with the number of the associated speed limit inside it. So if you ever see one of those while you're out on your travels, you now know what it means. The actual speed limit is of course inside a red circle. Now, I briefly made a 25% brake application, which I've now increased to 50%. The 30 mile an hour speed limit commences shortly after this signal here, so we are going to be down for it just in time, beginning to release the brakes and releasing the brakes as we are down to 30, and you can see the board that we've just passed there. So we are down for the 30 mile an hour speed limit in good time, and we can see Gravesend Station approaching. Well, we are approaching Gravesend Station, and the stopping position is right at the end of the platform for 8 carriage trains. 4 to 6 carriage trains stop midway along the platform. Just bouncing between 25 and 50% braking, and momentarily going down to about 5% braking, back up to 25, down to 5 again, just bouncing between those two percentages, and up to 25% for the stop. Full service, neutral, doors on the left. We have lost a silly amount of time here. I keep mentioning the fact that we're late, but then I keep mentioning the fact that I don't care as well. It's kind of funny. Green signal, everyone's boarded, pressing the door close button. Door interlock light has illuminated. Glance at the signal again, it is still green. Final glance of the monitors, F and R switching to forward, 25% power, observing the brake cylinder gauge reading fall to 0. Glance at the monitors again. And because the speed limit is currently 30 miles an hour, I'm only going to apply 75% power. That is to ensure that we do not accidentally break the speed limits. I personally have a habit of daydreaming a bit when I drive. So if I'm accelerating at a slower than normal pace, it kind of keeps me a bit more alert. With higher speed limits, going straight into full power is a bit more appropriate, but with these lower speed limits, you don't really want to be doing that. We've now passed the board with the number 50 on it, although it was quite hard to make out. It was a little tiny board down at track level. So once the rear of our train is clear of that, I'm going to apply full power to accelerate up to 50 miles an hour. Just doing that now. Okay, this run is going quite well. There is room for improvement regarding the commentary, but this is actually going quite better than I thought. Having a massive cup of coffee beforehand really helps, because I did not do that before the other attempts. We're up to 47 miles an hour, so because we're on a downward gradient, I'm going to shut off the power and our speed should continue to roll up towards 50 miles an hour. We've now passed a board with the number 70 on it, so once our train has cleared that board, which it most certainly has by now because of the speed that we're traveling at, I'm going to go back into full power and accelerate up to 70 miles an hour. Our next station is Rainham, which is quite some distance away. I'd say about 4 miles from our current position. So we can sit back and enjoy the ride. I'm also going to reset the recording once we reach Rainham station, so you might notice a bit of an edit. I was about to accidentally exceed the speed limit. On this specific stretch of track, I find that having a small amount of power applied helps you maintain 70 miles an hour. It's on level terrain, however, if you shut off the power completely, you're going to gradually lose speed. So just having that small amount of power left in there tends to help the speed balance out at 70 miles an hour. So that's what I'm currently doing. I do love the run sounds of the Class 700 at these higher speeds. I haven't really been on a Class 700 at too high of a speed in real life. I tend to travel on what sound like a UFO. I tend to travel on them when they're doing stopping services, but I haven't really been on them on high speed services. Too tough. See, we're starting to lose a bit of speed there, so I'm just increasing the power very slightly just to help us maintain 70. It's just to help us avoid losing any more unnecessary time. To prevent any further unnecessary losses of time is the way I should have worded that, but never mind. We're now passing through Hoo Junction Freight Depot, although it's very hard to make out due to the fact that it's pitch black. I'm now shutting off the power as we enter this right hand curve. And shortly after this signal, I'm going to make a 50% brake application for Rainham station. So I'm making that 50% brake application now. The stopping position is right at the end of the platform, so I'm going to aim to be doing around 35 as we enter the platforms here at Rainham station. So I've reduced the braking down to 25%. way in advance, but down to 45 miles an hour. I should be able to leave the braking percentage at 25. Yep, about 36 miles an hour into the platform, just increasing that up to 50% on the braking percentage spectrum, just to ensure that we're reducing our speed efficiently. You can see the stopping position coming up now, just bouncing between 25 and 50%. And 25% for the stop. That is a beautiful stop. Not too slow, not too fast, and nice and controlled. Full service, neutral, doors on the left. 14 minutes late. I'm going to reset the recording quickly. Bear with me.